I want to bring in Wisconsin Congressman Sean Duffy right now on this. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
You too, Maria. Thanks for having me on.
We've been having a discussion this morning about tax reform, and frankly, we're all worried. Donald Trump was elected into office on this idea that he was going to create economic growth through the tax package. Do you think we're going to see tax reform this year?
I do. So, I mean, you have to think about with a congressional calendar and what we're up against and what we're trying to get done. So, in tranche one is health care. We're going to use reconciliation, where we only need 51 votes in the Senate to pass a bill out of the House that goes to the Senate that can actually pass. Health care, number one. Then number two is going to be tax reform. So as you look to the middle of the spring, end of the spring, into the summer, we are going to get our tax bill done, and I think we get it passed in the Senate as well. Because again, using reconciliation, you only need 51 votes. And if you've seen anything over the last month, is that Democrats are digging their heels in, and they're just going to be obstructionists. Even when you have great policy that get business leaders around America to say, we're going to reinvest back in America, create more jobs, Democrats are still going to say no to those policies. So reconciliation is going to be one of the only pathways through which we can get tax reform done, and we're just not there yet.
It's Dagan McDavid. You're talking about procedural issues. If you talk to people who work in the House, who are congressmen, you have a tax plan that was proposed by the Republicans last year that Kevin Brady and, to a lesser extent, Paul Ryan are trying to sell, that Republicans are not on board with because of this border adjustment tax. Even Donald Trump, the president, has expressed some concerns about that. And what we've been talking about here on the set is that how could you not be more prepared to really push through something that everybody agrees on, given the fact that Donald Trump promised so much of this on the campaign trail? It almost looks like Republicans didn't expect him to win, and now they're flat-footed in terms of the actual proposal.
Well, first of all, I don't know that many people expected Donald Trump to win. I was one who thought he would. But everyone, Democrats and Republicans, were shocked at the outcome of the election. But that's different. Again, I'm not talking just procedure. I'm talking about the timeline. So if someone expects, hey, you're going to get tax reform done in February, I'm telling you that was never the plan. Health care was first, and taxes were second. And so if you want to have a broader debate about what a tax reform looks like, do we have the border-adjusted tax as part of this package, which you know that the House is pushing, leadership like Paul Ryan and Kevin Brady? We want feedback from people. What impact is that going to have on our economy? Are we going to see fluctuations in currency?
I know, but how long is the
gonna...
feedback going on, Congressman? I mean, for example, do you favor a border adjustment tax? Where do you sit on this? Well,
listen, I'm looking at both sides, but I would err on the side of the border adjusted tax right now. I think we're going to be able to bring jobs back home, and if we quickly have currency adjustments, we're going to have a tax code that incentivizes businesses to manufacture back in America instead of incentivizing them to export their manufacturing.
You
That's
made
a
such
good
an
thing.
important point right there. Currency adjustments, Peter Kiernan.
Right.
The whole idea of a border adjustment tax only works if the dollar goes up.
Yeah, I have two words for you, Congressman, that ask me, what about competitive response? If we put in a border adjustment tax, what happens if China, for instance, decides to be punitive with us at the border? And then, secondly, to go to other supply chains from us, so we lose at the border, and we lose because we don't get the order because they're dealing with Japan or somebody else.
Well, again, will the currency adjustment take that into effect? I think it's a possibility that that might end up being a wash. I think the main concern that we have is if we don't have that fluctuation in currency immediately, and it takes time, I think that could be a real drag on our economy, maybe to your point. And so there's competing interests on each side that are arguing each one of these points. Let me go back to this broader point I was making. Health care, dealing with the rules, the regulations, and the taxes in health care, number one, adjust the baseline, then allows us to do tax reform in, again, tranche two. And so when people say, let's not have the debate, or the debate means we're not going to do it, that's not the case. Spring of this year was always the timeline. It's a point in time now where we can take input from all different interests about the good and the bad and the ugly of what our proposal is.
All right.
Well, what are the proposals, really? We're talking about repeal. What are we replacing it with? I mean, there's so many question marks about. There's a tax plan. There's a replacement plan for Obamacare. What's being brought forward, really?
So, again, in Tranche 1, when you look at health care as a whole as a 100% piece of a pie, a big portion can be done through reconciliation, which is on spending and taxes. That'll hopefully come in the next couple months. We can do a lot with Tom Price at Health and Human Services. Democrats wrote this law in such a hasty fashion. If you recall, they had Ted Kennedy in the Senate. They had 60 votes. They didn't need Republicans. When he passed away and one of your guests on the show today, Scott Brown, won, all of a sudden they were in a lurch, and they had to use procedural tactics to get this uncompleted bill actually passed. And so Health and Human Services Secretary has a wide range of discretion. Tom Price will be able to do a lot with driving markets into health care. That's a good thing. That gets us about 70% of the way on health care reform. The next 30% is a bill that we're going to have to pass. We anticipate doing that by the end of the year. But healthcare takes time. We already have the plans for 2018 that are written. The prices are being vetted. It's going to not be probably until 2017 plans are already written. We're probably not going to get this until 2018. So the progression of time, it's not going to be jammed down people's throat. They're going to have time to adapt to the changes in the law, develop plans that work for the American people, hopefully bring down prices and offer more access. All
right. Well, we'll be watching that. Look, Congressman, we know you have this window of opportunity right here to get some stuff done. We're not blaming you that we don't see more on tax reform, but we want to see tax reform. Okay? This was hard. You're about to face a lot of pushback from people, right?
Yeah. And by the way, when you're talking about Obamacare, that's somebody's health. Money is easy.
Right.
Health is hard.
Yeah.
Listen, and healthcare has been horrible for people. We've ran for the last 6 years on healthcare, and we've won the House, we've won the Senate, and now we've won the presidency. This is a horrible law. People don't like it. And on taxes, if you look at the conversation with American CEOs, if they didn't have faith in the timeline and what we're working on, Intel wouldn't be bringing back a $7 billion investment into Arizona.
Yeah. All right.
They have faith and trust in what we're doing. They get it, and we're going to get it done.
Very good point there, Congressman. We will leave it there. Good.